Well, for years, laughter in the workplace has been overlooked as a solution to overall employee wellness. And now more than ever, it's important to understand the importance of injecting some humor into your work week. We try to do that around here. But there are benefits behind those jokes.
Yes, joining us this morning with more on the positive and healing effects of laughter in the office, our founder of Laugh.Events, Kevin Haubschman, and clinical psychologist, Dr. Natalie Datillo. Welcome, both of you. Where is Dr. Natalie? There she
Dr.
is.
Natalie.
I'm so glad we have the experts to co-sign and tell us that we should
be doing this and more.
We laugh at ourselves more than anything.
Pretty much.
But Kevin, how did all of this get started?
Yeah, and first off, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
You know, my comedy career started at the dinner table with my family. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so in order to get a spot at the dinner table, you had to make people laugh, and your stories had to be short and succinct.
Right.
So that's really where it started.
Toughest audience.
Yeah.
Exactly. And but yeah, then my love of comedy just kept growing. My brother, you know, he was in the comedy scene in New York about 12 years ago. And, you know, he was getting more involved. So we actually started our own improv group called the Brothers in Flaws.
Love it. Love it.
And that's really started to fall in love with all types of comedy, improv comedy. I eventually did stand-up comedy, you know, in clubs around New York. And eventually I just said, you know what, I'm going to throw my own show. And my company at the time let me throw my first stand-up show at their office.
Oh,
and that was really where Laugh.Events started.
Yeah. Did you get paid overtime for doing your stand-up?
No, actually, they let me do it for free.
Any, any heckling from your coworkers?
Oh, you know it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Comes with the territory. But at that point, you started to realize, what were the reverberations after doing something like that in the workplace for the people in the workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. My coworkers were just like, "You're doing that next month, right?" And I said, "Well, I guess we have to." So we kept doing that month after month, and the comedians got better. And you know, this is something where we said this could be really great for people to do something after work. And then the pandemic hit, and we no longer could do in-person events. So we shifted full-time to doing virtual comedy shows with the comedians that no longer could tour. And so they started working with us, and then we actually, to put some juice into the shows and make them better, we asked people who were coming, hey, tell us a fun fact about yourself, and we'll try to incorporate it into the show.
And then you roped them into the show.
That's kind of cool.
And that is what enhanced the team bonding element. All of a sudden, people were saying, hey, you definitely made me laugh, but I now know my coworkers better as a result.
Right.
And to that, we turn to Dr. Datillo. So what is the science behind laughter?
In the workplace.
Yeah.
Science behind laughter in the workplace. Oh, I really wish we understood this relationship better, and we're on a mission to really understand that better. But what we do know is that people who laugh at work report feeling less stressed, more productive, they make more money, according to Harvard Business Review, and are happier. So those are all really good things.
So then how do we, when we come up against, you know, corporate America, I mean, I'll use our 10th floor. It is a newsroom. There are managerial offices. Sometimes when we get silly and we laugh too loud, it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, you're mixing some elements here.
Right. So how do we...
What are the boundaries?
Yeah, what are the boundaries, you know, because we want to laugh, but we also want to be respectful of the work that's happening.
I think, well, everybody's sense of humor and what they find funny is going to be a little bit different. So it does require some level of sensitivity in the workplace. But there are lots of ways to laugh at yourself, bring lightheartedness and a culture of community and inclusion and play and lightheartedness when it's appropriate. And I think that really does enhance people's productivity and sense of belongingness, teamwork, all those good things that we like to see and have happen at the office.
Now, Dr. Datillo, I've seen a phrase or a term come up. It's called laughter yoga. What exactly is that?
Laughter yoga is a real thing. If you've never heard of it, Google it. It's a real thing.
Okay.
And what's interesting about laughter yoga is that it's actually a different type of laughter. So there's different types of laughter. There's spontaneous laughter that most of us think about when we think about laughing. We laugh in response to something funny. But you can stimulate laughter, almost force it.
Really?
And that's what laughter yoga does, and the studies that have looked at the benefits of laughter are usually looking at simulated laughter. Here's the interesting thing. Your body doesn't know the difference. The studies that have looked at the effects of laughter on your body and your brain, the body can't tell the difference between whether you're laughing spontaneously or intentionally.
I've heard that about smiles. Yeah. If you put a smile on your face when you're really angry, you can't really be that angry anymore because physically you have, apparently there is a connection.
All right.
There you go.
Got to confuse your body a little bit.
Yeah, there you go.
Sometimes you have to. Dr. Dattilo, thank you so much. Kevin, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I've got to work on my joke list now for you. Better than those bad, horrible weatherman jokes.
Let's laugh our way to happiness.